All right, welcome to the Daria Hammer podcast. Today I have a very special guest. I know I always say it because all my guests are special, but I consider him a very good friend, even though we only met a year ago at an amazing event in Los Angeles. Luke Wren he's an international business coach, keynote speaker. He partnered with multiple multi-million-dollar businesses over the past 20 years. So he's going to bring us a lot of great value when it comes to entrepreneurship, business development. So I'm really excited to pick his brain. But more interestingly, his journey started very early in his 20s, where he built a chain of health clubs, which led to multi-million-dollar exit. And we're going to learn a lot about how that experience helped him to pave his current path and his future. Now, he is not only in business, he also helps businesses and helps entrepreneurs and CEOs in building their businesses. He's gone on to coach CEOs, executives, and high-level entrepreneurs to help them scale their businesses over the past decades. And, interestingly, he has spoken at over 60 Tony Robbins events, and he used to work for Tony Robbins for over 10 years and or longer, and has taught life and wealth mastery. And he's going to share his experience with working during that time, and also currently he is a CFO and leadership development of Build Senior Living, and so he's going to also discuss his current projects in that regard with us. So welcome, Luke. I'm really excited to have you on my podcast finally, and I got you actually in person. I would have been happy if I had gotten you over Zoom, but I'm super stoked. And yeah, you literally called me yesterday like, hey, I'll be in town, and I'm spontaneous, so I love that spontaneity of yours. And I'm all for making things happen. So thank you for coming here. I know you're here on a business trip, and I appreciate your generosity from the bottom of my heart to make time to just come here. You could have been doing so many other things than sitting here chatting with me. So I'm really humbled. I'm really honored to have you. And one of the things I'm most excited about is you perfectly fit the genre and the topic of my podcast, which is bringing my audience value, not only about business, entrepreneurship, life, more than anything, but is about hearing real life stories of real human beings that have walked the walk, that are not philosophers, are not some intellectual that is teaching, a professor that is teaching that has never done it, actually has done it, and is just simply sharing your life, not just your past, but also your current and your present and the future with us, so that we can learn. One of the most inspiring I guess wisdoms I've ever heard is like, if you find one person that has done it, that means it's possible. And so that's something that my podcast is based on, having real people talk about their experience, so that you get inspired. And if you're sitting home and thinking you have these ideas and passions that you're sitting on, and people around you, naysayers or whomever they might be, they keep telling you can't do it, it's difficult, so you know that it's actually possible. So thank you, Luke, for coming here, and welcome to DC from sunny Florida, Sarasota. Is that correct?
Yeah, Sarasota. And thank you so much for the warm introduction, Daria. It's a pleasure to be here. As you know, we went back and forth all of last year. Your schedule's busy, my schedule's busy, and when I saw Elaine, I was like, wait, I'm going up to Virginia. And I messaged you, and I'm like, where are you at? And I'm like, well, it's a little bit north, but who cares? It's worth the drive. And because when we met, we were like, we got to get together. You got to come to Sarasota, or I'll come up to Virginia. I remember you saying you're right outside of DC. And I think a lot of times people miss out on the juice of life because they don't make the time to stay in touch, right? Even though we didn't get together as much, we communicated back and forth, following each other. online, encouraging each other, rooting for each other, and developed such a great relationship over the last year that, like we got here together, we were like two little kids in a candy store waiting for an ice cream cone. Like, I can't believe it's real. Like, all right, great. We finally found time to get together.
And we didn't even sit down. We talked for 90 minutes standing around chairs. We could have easily sat, but I noticed we actually didn't even sit.
So it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the warm introduction. But I feel honored of all the incredible guests you've had, and how valuable your time is to be spending some with me tonight. So
absolutely. Look, I do this podcast, and many of my listeners know it. I do it because I can learn so much. I learn so much from my podcast guests. I had many amazing entrepreneurs, physicians, just inspiring personalities. And, one of the things I like about interviewing or talking to people like yourself is that I can't think of any other opportunity in a certain time that I have, which is none almost. Mm-hmm. Like for me to do the podcast, I have to sit down and just do it. It's not something that just falls into my lap. I have to go get it. Mm-hmm. And that really encourages me and forces me to find interesting people like yourself that can bring value. Because if my podcast doesn't bring value, if our conversation doesn't bring value, why would anyone want to listen to it? But the best thing I love about it is that I learned so much, and I've learned so much over the past now. I'm in my third year of my podcast now, and most people laughed at me. They
Congratulations.
said, "Thank you." Most people laughed at me. They said, you're just going to do a couple. It's so much work. You can't do it. You don't have time. And here I am, my third year, and I think I'll be doing it until I drop. But enough about me. I want you to, you do many great things, not just as far as business, but great things on human level. Mm-hmm. How did you connect the business with human level? And is it something that just evolved, or did you have a mentor that you looked up to that you tried to emulate? Did you, just fall into it? Tell us a little bit how you combine business and human aspect to the point that not only it brings yourself, makes your own life valuable, but other people's lives valuable, whether it is business partners or people you're building business for.
Absolutely. I think it was natural from a young age. Like I grew up in a little small town. I was very fortunate. I have incredible parents, my mom and dad, Fran and Shar, and my mom and dad instilled in me from a young age love, right? I was so blessed to be so rich in love. We weren't rich in money when I was young, right? We had I think the first house I grew up in, it was about $17,000. We had train tracks in the backyard. One of the rooms in the basement actually had a dirt floor. And my dad was handy, and he turned the garage into a living room and dining room and really made it look nice with a bay window and garage down below. But I always tell people I grew up poor in money, but so rich in love. I never thought we were tight for money. But I watched how my mom and dad just took the fundamentals of the good book and instilled work ethic and love and do the right thing for the right reason. And, I heard a lot as a kid growing up. You could imagine the fourth commandment, thou shalt honor the mother and father. But, I just, because I was brought up in such love, it's just so natural for me to connect on a heart level with people, right? I think the most natural thing in the world is to care about somebody because, you hear the old adage a lot of people say it, that, nobody cares what you know until they know you care. Well, can you truly love somebody? And not just the ones you want to love, but love the ones that are challenging to love. Mm-hmm. And I think in business, everybody's going to do more when they feel they're cared for. And I think that's just generally in life is there's more brought out of you when you really feel somebody loves and cares for you. And I think in business, it's pretty tough to work alongside of somebody 8 hours a day 20 years ago, right? I mean, now if you don't think a work day is 10 hours a day, it's really tough, right? Because the work days have not gotten shorter for most people, right? You can optimize and maximize your day if you're an entrepreneur, but in most job settings where somebody's an employee, there's more expected of them now than ever before. and with inflation and all the other stresses. So I think it's more important now than ever that we not just care about business, we care about people. Because at the end of the day, every great business is a collection of incredible people. If you build a team of incredible people that work together and care about each other, you'll have an incredible business.
Now you meet thousands of people a year, and people from all kinds of backgrounds, upbringing. A lot of what you talked about is about love, empathy, compassion, is values that you're taught since childhood, which goes back to parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Can you teach that? If someone listening right now can't connect with what you just said,
mm-hmm.
because of their childhood, they might have not grown up in a loving childhood. They might have not have parents that taught them empathy, love, respect, the basic values
mm-hmm.
that you just talked about. How do you teach that? Because like you said, in today's business, it's a requirement. No one wants to do business with someone that they can't connect with, that they feel they don't really care. And, people have great bullshit detectors, honestly. So you can't even an actor wouldn't be able to bullshit themselves out of it unless you're, I don't know, one of these amazing actors, right? But
yep.
Can you teach that?
I believe it's if somebody wants to be aware and do it. I think love is the most natural thing in the world, right? When you're a child, when somebody has a child, when we're kids, think about, I think we try and teach kids so much, but we need to pay attention and go, what do we need to learn from kids? Because there was no hierarchy on the playground when you're 2-3 years old. When you're 2-3 years old, it was natural to play with everybody, not judge anybody, try new things, fall down, get back up, get hurt, keep going. And then as we get older, we conform to these rules and think like, oh, it didn't work out the first time, it doesn't work. Where, what if your parents thought, wow, he fell down 4 times, I don't think he's going to walk.
Yeah.
Right? How many times do we have to fall to learn how to walk? But when you look on a playground of 2 or 3 year olds, that even by 5 or 6, they start to judge a little bit more. And the most natural thing in the world is to love, right? And love brings together, fear divides. Look what's going on in the world right now. When there's high fear, we feel divided. What's going to solve it all? Love.
Yeah.
If you want to create a great workplace, if you have a business or you're leading a team out there, I'm telling you the number one thing you can instill in it to retain top talent, attract top talent, and deliver for your ideal client is lead with love. Care about the people you're working with.
That's beautifully said. I couldn't agree more with you. And how did you learn that throughout your journey, or is it something that you always knew about? I mean, your entrepreneurial journey goes back to your early 20s, which is about 5 years ago, right?
Well, thank you for being so kind.
The only good thing I found in our cars, thank God you're younger than me, because usually when I used to always be the youngest with people that I hung with, but for me it's great to be with someone that, even though by only a couple of years, that I can learn so much from. But tell me, your entrepreneurial journey started in your early 20s, is that correct?
Yeah. I started my first painting company when I was 19, and then in my 20s, I was my first real multi-million-dollar business, a health club chain.
So when did you make that decision going to school? Honestly, I know everybody knows I'm a surgeon. I went to school for, education for 15 years, but honestly, knowing the school system now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend someone to spend thousands of dollars on education unless it's a track that requires certain diplomas like medicine, like law or engineering. Now, you're entrepreneur, and at age 19, I look at myself when I was 19, I didn't know anything about nothing. Mm-hmm. Like, did you have a mentor, or what was it? And you started one morning you woke up and you're like, I'm going to do this. Tell me a little bit, take us back to that moment. Yeah. I just want to know how that decision came about.
I think for me, growing up in a small town, Howard Lake, Minnesota, and it was like 300 and some people when I went there, right? It was like two towns combined to produce a school. And I remember I was in the principal's office all the time in second grade, Kurt Leving. I still stay in touch with him to this day. And he goes, "You're always in my office. You want to mow my lawn?" And I remember at 7, that was my first job I had that taught me, like, you can work. And if I do a great job, I'll get paid well. Back then, $20 was, $20 now is not go as far as it did, just 38 years ago. And so that's where I kind of got, if you work hard, you can make money, and that money can go get you what you want. So that was my first taste of it, right? And then being in a small town, it sounds crazy to let a 7-year-old mow a lawn now, right? But I remember I wanted to look like
Child
Yankee
labor.
Stadium. I mowed the grass twice because I wanted him to be I wanted to feel proud of what I did, do a great job. And then you go on and I rogued and rock picked and detasseled, all those things up in the Midwest, and being in a farm community. And then, I worked for this pizza shop, and I was the dishwasher. And then I became the pizza cook, and I wrestled. So it wasn't good to be cutting weight and making pizzas. It didn't work well. So I started working for a painting company, Pettit Painting. This Jay Pettit, a really, really great guy. And, I started paying attention to what he was doing. And I'm like, he's got freedom. He's dropping a crew off here, going there, doing this, doing that. One time I saw a sheet of what he was charging for me and what he was paying me, and what these jobs were being paid, and knowing the actual cost. And I'm like, I want to be that guy. And that was the end of my employment history. and I remember, and I was still in college at the time, and I just go, I'm going to just go buy a truck, some ladders, and some paintbrushes and a sprayer. And I remember I bought this old crappy little rusty truck. I printed up some Wren's painting cards, and and I didn't get fancy. I just go, okay, well, I'm just going to save up, do this, put up some signs, and I go, well, this is great, because you take a house that needs to be painted, put a sign in the front yard as you're painting it, and within 6 weeks, I was booked for the entire 8 month, the entire 8 weeks that I was home for the summer. And I remember I went back to college feeling like I was a multi-millionaire, because I was on scholarship for wrestling, and I made all this money in the summer. And I remember step one was me doing it. But then it was funny. I hired my friend Brent, and then my brother Wes. And there was a point halfway through the summer I got it down. And every entrepreneur, I think, knows this point when they hit it. It's like, okay, great, I could be the owner. But then it was like, well, if I can employ somebody, pay them well, and have a margin on what they do, that'll leverage my time. And I remember I dropped them off specifically at this house. I won't say the last name, but at this house of this lady named Joan. And they were doing work. And what I did is I put a drop cloth over my golf clubs in the back of the truck. And I had a little duffel bag back there. And I said, hey, guys, I'm going to go bid a couple more jobs. I'll be back the end of the day. And I drove off. I didn't lie. I bid a couple more jobs. I went and played 18 holes of golf.
That's work.
I came back the end of the day with more work in the future. I'd made money all day playing golf. And I'm like, I will never be even a good employee anymore now that I understood entrepreneurship. Not that it's easy, not that I didn't have to work hard, but I was like, that's where I really started getting wired to go, I want my own thing. I want to do what I want.
So how did you scale it? So take us to the end of that, because I know you created this business, and then it then led to creating health clubs. How did you get into that, and how did you exit? Did it come as a surprise, or was it completely planned? So kind of walk us through that moment for people that are listening here, thinking about. I know family friend son. He started a lawn mowing business, and he's in college. He's doing really great, and there's a lot of people like that. Yeah, I think they would find it very valuable.
Well, number one, I mean, I have a friend that's investing with me in Build Senior Living right now that I didn't really know that well. I had a beer with when in our early 20s when I was home from college, and he had a roofing company back then. He had worked for my friend. My friend's dad, he worked for him, and he went out on his own, just having like you said, a lawn mowing business. He just had a roofing company, but he turned that roofing company into doing over $30 million in Minnesota over the last 20 years, and then got acquired by a larger roofing company for over $60 million. And that's just recent. So why share that story of not just myself, but somebody else? What if you thought, oh, I'm just a roofer? There's no wrong dream. Whatever somebody is listening to today, what is it that you dreamed about when you're a kid? What are those thoughts in your head when you're not letting the world or your limitation or your self-doubt get in the way? Because for me, that dream started when I was very young. At 13, I remember as the youngest age that I started telling people I was going to have my own health club someday. Because I was very blessed to have so many great coaches in sports from the point I was 5 years old, and my dad got me involved in wrestling, and I played baseball and basketball. I did every sport you could up till 7th or 8th grade when they made you choose. And then it was wrestling, football, baseball, and then eventually it was just wrestling and football. And then in college it was wrestling and football for 1 year, and then it became just wrestling the last 4 years of college. But, you know, it's so often we let other people get in our head about what's possible, you know. And if you look at impossible, it spells I'm possible. So I would challenge anybody hearing this right now, what's that dream that you're afraid to believe in? What is it you really want to do? And, you know, if you work 8 hours a day, there's still 16 hours. Say you sleep 8, there's still another 8 hours that you can start doing something every day, moving towards that dream. And for me at 13, when I started telling people, hey, I'm going to have my own health club someday, in a town of 350 people, yeah, where are you going to get the money for that? Yeah, good luck with that. The amount of people that said, good luck with that, whatever. And I always, you know, I was always about energy.
How did you tune that out?
I just got obsessed. It almost used it as fuel to go, I don't know how, but I will. And then I remember I came across Tony Robbins audio at a garage sale when I was 17 years old, and personal power. And might date us a little bit. You know, you said you're a few years older than me. I'm 44 now. And we used to have these things called cassette tapes.
We just talked
Everybody,
about it.
you know how you knew you were cool?
Yeah.
When you were a kid in our generation? Mm-hmm. You didn't have an iPhone. You had a Sony Walkman.
Yep. Remember the yellow ones?
The yellow. The sport model.
Yeah, the sport model.
And it was water resistant, not waterproof.
I remember it was yellow.
They didn't have wireless earbuds. You had over-the-head headphones, and your music was so cool. Yeah. You had to make sure you loved it because you only got about 4 or 5 songs. Then you had to flip the tape.
60 minutes.
And you listen to it over and over. And I remember I got that audio, and he said the only way to be reasonable is to be completely unreasonable, you know. And just it was where I got exposed to self-development, to really dream big, believe big, that you get to shape your life and create your life. You don't have to be a person of circumstance, right? And I just listened over and over relentlessly from the point I was 17 to personal development, whether it was Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Les Brown, Joel Osteen, just flooded my mind with that. I'm not that great of a reader. I know, you know, I got a lot of books, but I scan my books and highlight it. So if you're not a big reader or really good at studying out there, I was a C student at best in high school.
Well, now you can YouTube it.
Then I got B's, but I was visual and audio, right? There's many ways to learn, right? You get your VAC, video, audio, or kinesthetic, and I'm always been very visual and very audio. And so when I picked up audios like that, now what we have with podcasts and YouTube and the amount of knowledge out there, there's no excuses to not learn what you need to learn to go do something. But what taught me along the way, I think, in that was I just started saying it. I think there's so much power. I could give you some advanced answer, but I don't think there's anything more powerful than controlling our minds by what are you saying to yourself daily. And I was saying it so often that I was going to have a health club. There wasn't much room for somebody to program in my mind like, oh, how are you going to do that? Good luck with that. Where are you going to get the money from? It was never. And on that audio from Tony Robbins, he always says, it's not the how, it's the why. And we've all heard that so many times. And I remember at the age of 7, 8 years old, my grandfather Charles passed away. And when he passed away, he squeezed my hand and he just said, I remember one of the last times I saw him, he goes, Lucas, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And my mom would always tell me, your grandfather Charles would always say, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And I can't say I knew what I was doing at 7, 8 years old when I was listening to Bruce Springsteen, the boss, who's on tour still today, and listening to Born in the USA and doing a Jack LaLanne chair workout books, and started working out at 7, and then at 13 saying I was going to have health clubs. But I just started believing and saying it over and over and over again. And I didn't know I was going to have health clubs. Because my first goal, when I said, well, gosh, you got to go to college and do something, because, we're programmed like, okay, you graduate and you go to college and then you get a job and then you work hard and then you retire, right? And so much is programmed. And I challenge anybody hearing this, break the programming.
Yeah.
Break the programming. Do what you want to do. There is no set program you got to follow in life. Because if you look at the people that you're looking up to or admire, they all have their own way of doing it. They all have their own paths. We all go at different paces. We all have failures. We all have successes. But what happened was I just kept saying it over and over and over again, that I guess I programmed myself to believe I'd do it. And then when I went to be a teacher, I didn't realize all the politics of being a teacher, right? And that's when I switched my major to sport and exercise management. And I said, I'll be a trainer. I want to change people's lives anyways. The most natural thing for me was coaching, because I had so many coaches. And as I see you nodding your head, you can relate too. Sports taught me so much about life, adversity, how to win, how to lose, that you can't control everything. Sometimes a call by a ref might determine who wins. But you got to know in your mind, did you do everything you could do? Sports, in a way, taught me so much more than even school did. And it's the only thing that got me to go to college, because I wasn't that bright of a student. Yeah. So, but because of sports, I went to college. And then I got to pick classes I was really interested in. When I did sport and exercise management, I got better grades. And it showed when you have a stronger why am I reading this? Why do I need to study this? You can do better.
100%.
And so I think, I challenge everybody to figure out, what is it you want? And why do you want it? And don't let the tyranny of the how. Oh, how am I going to do that? How are you going to take one step a day? Do something for it. And you'll move toward it.
I think the punchline really is in finding your why. I remember when I was always terrible in school just because I didn't have a why. I don't know why I need to do math. I'm like, what's a calculator for? I didn't know why I need to learn history, because no one told me the value of history. They just told me I need to remember who, Bismarck was, or what Napoleon, where he went from, and how he lost a battle. I didn't have a why. I'm like, I don't care about this stuff.
Yeah.
Now I love history. I love history because there's so many lessons to be learned. Just like I'm a big sports fan like you, because all my life I played sports. Today, my life, I can't imagine my life without sports. I love the adversity, the competitiveness, the lessons it teaches. Just like you said, this could literally be me talking. So I was like, I was like nodding my head off. And, but, it's once I learned the why, I found, just like you found joy in helping people to get fit. Actually, when I was in college, I was worked as a personal trainer for 2 years, just because I was into fitness. And I'm like, oh man, if I can do it, you should do it too, Absolutely. And people ask me. So I found my north, which was making people happy, making people feel good about themselves. Some of it was my dad's inspiration, who was a physician. I went to his office. I looked how people were so grateful to him. It was so inspiring. Like people would come sick and go out healthy, and that inspired me, showed me the value of doing something for someone else, making someone else healthy feel better. It gave me so much joy just watching it that I wanted to do it. So when I decided I wanted to do the same, my grades went from a C- to an A. Absolutely. And within like half a semester. And I remember my teachers were always telling me, we're really worried about him, this and that. And the only people believing in me were my parents telling me, no, we know he's smart, he can do it. So they were constantly fighting in the teacher parent conferences with the teachers because they knew me. I just was bored. So I can totally connect to what you just said. The why, I think, just back to the punchline, the secret sauce and the message you just delivered, I don't want that to get lost, is really the why is so important. I believe that's why so many small businesses fail. That's why so many multi-million or billion-dollar businesses fail, because at some point they get too big, they lose their why. Mm-hmm. And the ones that sustain long-term, I mean, look at Apple. I love Apple because they don't sell your product. They talk about why, the why they're making the product, and they make you want the product. It's completely reversed. And so the proof is in the pudding. I mean, it's all over. We just don't look or we don't listen. So I loved what you just said. And to me, it's not surprising that your business took off at an early age, because you found your why at an early age. So what do you say to people that are in their 20s, or they're in college, or they're about to go to college, and they hear this stuff? They're like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. What the hell does a why mean? I mean, I want to make some serious dough. I want to have a Lambo. I want to, they look at all these YouTubers. They driving like 4 supercars, and they're showing it off. And then they, it's like, or some middle class families, they want to keep up with the Joneses constantly. They forget what really makes them happy. Like, how can we get out of this hole?
Yeah. We've come to a society where, I grew up an achiever, right? If I get this, then I'll be happy. If I achieve this, then I'll be happy. If I win the nationals in wrestling, then I'll be happy. If I have my business, then I'll be happy. If my business makes $1 million, then I'll be happy. And anybody that knows, when your business makes $1 million the first time, I can tell by your smile, you're not making as much money as you thought. You're not making any. You're going, okay, that's revenue. Now I need to understand profit. I need to meet with my accountant and my attorney more and understand these numbers a little bit better. But we're naturally wired to go, if we do this and we achieve this and we get this, it's not that why do they want the Lambo? They think the Lambo is going to make them happy. Why do they want the millions of dollars? Because they think they want to make them happy. And I believe why we have a society that's more unhappy than ever, according to research, is that the number one thing people want to do is be famous. But name off the top of your head 10 famous people that are truly happy in their eyes, in their joy, and in their heart. And I've created so much pain for myself in the past, in my 20s and 30s, thinking that it was achievement to happiness, right? That, if I get this, if I have that, I would ask everybody out there, this is such a great question. Like, if you don't know your why, but I want to be successful, or I want to be this, I would say, what could you get excited about doing? And I'm not the one that says, you got to love what you do and everything else will fall into place. I think you got to find something that you can fall in love with the process of doing. Yes. Because there's going to be times you got to wake up early, go to bed late. If you're going to create something great, right? Some people go, I never want to be an employee. That's a bad thing. No, I disagree. Everybody's different. Yeah. Some people listen to this, have a job, and they love it, and they do an excellent job, and it's a good fit for them.
Certainty.
I wouldn't wish being an entrepreneur upon anybody, right? It's a different wiring. It's just, what do you want to create? What do you want to do? I admire how some people have an excellent job, and they can go in at 9 and they get done at 5, and they can shut it off and compartmentalize and do that. And I think that's wonderful. I think the biggest thing is people think about what they want to do. Don't worry about other people. Decide, go spend a weekend or a week by yourself and say, what do I really want? What do I want to create? What do I want to do? Brainstorm, let the world go, and decide what you want. And why would I want to do that? What if that did work out? And just have some conversations with yourself, because all too often we're letting the worry of judgment of others come in. And people go, Luke, you don't care about others? No. Anybody that's met me knows I care on another level. My job is to care about others. But here's the key. Everybody write this down. Care about others, but don't give a shit about what they think. This is your life. Yeah. This is your journey. And I can show you 1,000 examples. Just look at every person you know in life. We've all had different backgrounds. We've all had different dreams. We've all had different experiences. There's a million ways to get to where you want to go. Just decide which one works for you. And the joy, I think, is understanding to enjoy the process, because so many times I was empty in my 30s and 20s by thinking, oh gosh, if I got there, I got there. And so many times in my journal I wrote, that's it. You get there and you go, that's it. And the more that feeling happened, the more I realized, like, hey, I'm just writing a book of life here. And I just got to do some shit and learn some shit and do some shit and learn some shit. And sorry about the language, but it's just why I break it down that way is to wake people up, because it's like, well, what did you do? How'd you do it? You know, and our minds goes into that right away, where it's like, do something. That's why I said the word shit. Just do something. I don't care if it's you bought a book. I don't care if it's you made a phone call. If you had a conversation, you know, how do you get fit? Well, 80% of your results comes from nutrition. So start eating something nutritious. There you go. That's a step. You don't have to fix it all at once. Most people fail at that because they go hire a trainer. They try and change their entire diet. They tell themselves they don't look good enough. They're not fit good enough. And instead of going, okay, what's one step I could do? Okay, I'm going to have an apple a day. I learned apple a day keeps the doctor away, right? Yeah. Well, no, if you eat crap the other 95% of the time, the doctor will still come, right?
The apple goes away.
Take that one step. So care about other people, but just don't care about what they think. Our job is done. All we can control is what we put out. What comes back is on them. What people say about you is on them. What people judge you for is on them. So the more that you can program yourself, like I said at a young age, how did I get that health club? I just told everybody, I said it to myself so many times that I think what you need to say what you want 10 times to every one negative that would come in, and you're going to keep moving. Now, if you're only saying what you want once in a while, and then every day you're hearing from somebody who can't do it, you're probably going to give up on it.
Yeah, and that's beautifully said, because, you know, one of the things when I talk to, you know, I teach students and residents and fellows, and a lot of them are 20, 30 years younger than me, sadly. But what I hear a lot is they value other people's judgment way more than they realize. And when you try to make them aware of that, it's almost like they don't know what you're talking about, because it's kind of like programmed in you, especially when you're younger. You value other people's opinion over what you actually want. And so what happens a lot is they make their decisions based on the ideas that they have. So they grab an idea, they think that's what they want because they actually like the idea. They have no, they don't have any perspective yet. They don't know what the idea actually means. Mm-hmm. And once they're far into it, they realize, oh shit, that's not what I really like. But then they're like, well, I'm already in it. I'm just going to force myself through it. And then they realize they missed out on something else. They wasted their time. And now they get frustrated. They get cynic about other people instead of just, they think it's almost like people think they have only 30 years to live. And, you know, if they would just take the time to self-reflect and just be true to themselves and honest about what they really like, and break out of their comfort zone and get free of all the judgment from whether it is friends or even their own parents. In some mm-hmm. cases, I have family friends. They come and their kids come and tell me, I really don't want to do this, but my mom thinks I should do this. I'm like, so what do you really want? And they're so scared to admit it that they don't even dare going there. Mm-hmm. And they never explore it. It's almost like living someone else's life. And it's a very sad thing for me when I see what's happening. It's so frustrating. And sometimes I try really to explain it to them, because I feel they got that one chance. We got one life, and we got to make the best out of it. And so how do you approach, I know you do a lot of coaching. How do you make people aware? Because you can say a statement like, hey, you got to self-reflect, or you got to do what you love, or you got to find your passion. What we have to realize, to some people, it sounds like a fortune cookie statement, or like a poster that they walk by and read. How do you make them believe that that's where the truth is? How do you break through?
No, great question. How do you break through? You don't tell them. You ask them. And if you want to change the trajectory of your life, if you want to do, in today's world, you need to be able to pivot, right? AI is going to change the way that all businesses do business. We're having the largest transfer of wealth in the history of the United States over the next 10 years. Our senior population is 50 million, just over 50 million. It's going to over 90 million by 2030.
Wow.
How's that going to change the dynamics of the United States? Like, there's so many exciting changes right now, but some people go, oh, that's scary. What's your perspective? Is it exciting to you or scary? But you got to start looking at the possibilities. But when I try and work with somebody to get them to where they want to go, I don't tell them, because 80% of our thoughts are negative or opposing in our mind. So if I tell you, Daria, you can do it, 80% of your subconscious is going, I don't know if I can. I can't do it. He thinks I can, but he doesn't know this, and this, and this. But if I say, Daria, could you do it? If you really put your mind to it, if you full out committed, if you went for it, if you decided what you want, and you said, you know what, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to be fine if I don't get it, but I'm going. Would you be able to do it? Your whole brain and psychology right now is going, thinking of every way you could. I could see you sit up different. You started thinking about something as we're sitting right here that of course I can. Yeah. So I think the way to break through to people, oftentimes we grew up in a world where everybody told us what we should do.
Beautiful.
And I think the greatest thing I learned from the greatest coaches and mentors I've had, they won't give me the answer. They'll give me a great question that I need to search for it.
Beautiful. That's we in medicine, we call it the Socraterian method of teaching. Is you don't give them the answer, or you don't ask them a question. You don't give them the answer. You ask them a question, and you don't tell them. You make them think, and when you think, especially when you get to the solution yourself, it becomes more believable. You're more likely to follow through. And so that's great advice. And I even teach my staff, sometimes they get annoyed. They're like, just tell me. I'm like, no, I want you really to learn, because I could tell you, you're probably going to retain only 20% of what I just told you. Mm-hmm. But if I make you think, there's no way you're going to forget. And that's the best way of teaching. In medicine, we call it Socraterian method teaching. So that is
one of the greatest books of all time. I know you've read it. I've read it multiple times. I try to read it every couple times every year. Is Think and Grow Rich. It wasn't. You don't get to just grow rich. You don't just get rich. Like, it's think and grow rich. Yeah. And I think it's more valuable than ever in history to spend quality think time. And people go, "What do you do in think time?" What if you just thought of one good question and sat with it each week, or even 30 minutes a day? How different would our thought process be?
Great philosopher said, I think, therefore I am.
Exactly.
And that's so that was, I don't know how many thousand years ago that was. So this is not new science, guys. So tell me about your experience with Tony Robbins. And the reason why I bring Tony Robbins up is because he changed my life. A lot of the stuff that we talk about right now, that you teach, I teach, is because he made me self-aware. And when I stumbled upon him, I was just like anybody else. I was a hamster in the wheel. I was just led by society's norms. And I was very unhappy. Even though you would see me anywhere, I was the one that tried to put light in a party. Everybody's like, man, I wish, why is he so happy? Inside of me was very dark, because I was always thinking, and I didn't understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. I got to a point, I was an early achiever in anything that I did. And I reached my life's goal within very few years coming out of residency, going straight into building my business and becoming an entrepreneur. And I thought it would take 20 years. Mm-hmm. And within 5 years, I had reached my 20-year goal. And I remember it was on a Sunday morning. And I like to sleep in on Sundays. I'm a night owl, so on weekends I love to sleep in.
I can relate.
And I love sleep, guys. Sleep is the most important thing, by the way. So I woke up at around 4:30 a.m. It was still dark. And I couldn't go back to sleep. And I started getting upset. I'm like, dude, it's your day off. Just freaking sleep now. You need it. You worked your tail off. So I couldn't. So I just rolled a couple times. I ended up going down in the kitchen. downstairs, and I sat in the kitchen table, and I just sat there, and I saw the sun go up, and I just sat there for hours, and thinking about, now what? Am I going to do this for the rest of my life? I'm just going to work and going to the operating room and just like, making money and then finding ways of spending it? That doesn't make sense. It just didn't make sense. I reached a point where nothing made sense. So I didn't have a north. I didn't have a goal. I didn't have a motivation. And tears started coming out. I never felt that sad in that moment, because for the first time in my life, I didn't have an answer. I didn't know where to go. And where I saw myself going, I didn't like it, because it didn't make sense. I literally saw a hamster running in a wheel. And so that was it. Everybody woke up, and then I interrupted my thought process, and then I don't even know how I stumbled on Tony Robbins. I remember I was on YouTube. I think I Googled like purpose of life or something like that, and I stumbled on one of Tony's videos, and I didn't even know who Tony is. Okay, this is 2014.
Oh wow, very recent. Yeah.
Right? And so the message was so captivating. He, the way he talks, powerful, the message, no bullshit, and asking questions started making me think. And I realized everything, I went all the way back into my childhood. I remembered why I love what I do today. I had forgotten my why because I was so busy and like hustling. I forgot my why, even though it was
right there
the whole time. And so I became obsessed and addicted. And I finished all his videos online. I ended up getting his books, and a lot of his stuff that's in his books is online. So a lot of it was redundant, but it just got instilled with me. I became so obsessed. There was one night I sat at the kitchen table until like 4 a.m. I started writing everything down because I didn't want to forget. And then the idea came to me, is like, I got to share it with my friends. I got to share it with my colleagues. I got to share it with the world. What if they don't know about this? So I created even a workshop. I started like, I got invited to lecture about, what I do, but then I thought maybe I teach them before I introduce the techniques, the surgical techniques that I do, introduce or talk like 15 minutes about why that's important. Why it's important why are we even doing this? Are we just making people look better, or are we even giving them more, helping them at the psychological level? And I realized it's about confidence. We're confidence doctors. We're not surgeons. We give people confidence. So because I understood my why, so I became obsessed with it. So I did a lecture, and everybody loved it. I got invited, and then they said, hey, can you talk about it here and there? And I decided to do a workshop even for my community. For two to 3 years, I immersed myself. I got so busy. I'm like, okay, I can't sustain this with my job. So I stopped. I still have my handout, a booklet that I created. I give it to my fellows. I'm like, here you go. Learn this first before you go to the operating room, because you need to know what your purpose is. And so that gave me life. And you know what happened that same year? A friend of mine, who was my chief resident in Chicago, where I was an intern. An intern is basically the lowest on the totem pole. You're the one that just fetching x-rays or like cleaning stuff and bringing the chief resident coffee. And if it's too cold, you get extra call, And so I did 1 year internship there. And my chief resident, he was very hard on me because that's how he talked. And I thought he hated me. So when I got out of there, I was kind of like, I didn't connect with him anymore because I thought he doesn't like me. I was like, man, why is he so mean to me? So
he wanted you to do well.
Exactly. 13 years later, I'm sitting in this chair here. I get a phone call on my iPhone. His name is on the caller ID. And I'm like, I thought first thing is, I'm like, he butt dialed me. What I'm getting to, I want to talk to you about the universe. that the universe shows us all these signs, we just don't see them. But once we gain perspective, we realize the meaning. And that's when I realized my why. So I get that call. I thought something happened to him. I thought maybe so meanwhile, the phone is ringing. I'm thinking all this, the phone is ringing. It's about to go to answering machine, right? So I'm like, what if something happened to him? I'm like, let me just pick up. So I pick up. I'm like, yes, Andres, is it you? He goes like, yeah. How are you? I'm like, how are you? Everything okay? Is the family okay? Because I really thought something happened to him. And he says, yeah, everything all right. Sorry, am I catching you at a bad time? I'm like, no, it's been a long time. What's going on? Long story short, he contacted me because he wanted me to go on a mission trip with him. And I'd never gone on a mission trip. I always wanted to do it. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know who to call. Anybody I talked to, like, oh, it's so hard to get into. You have to pay a lot of money. I'm like, to go on a mission, I have to pay money? It's like, I'm doing free surgery. Yeah, because people do it for marketing and this and that, and everybody contacts them, so that's how they fund it. I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. So I got kind of like turned off. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it for money, and I don't want to pay or get paid. So I never ended up doing anything with foundations. So he contacted me about a cleft lip and palate mission. I'm like, so what's the name of the mission? I was thinking about it. He's like, well, that's the thing. There's no mission. I'm like, so how are we going on a mission trip? It's like, well, I thought maybe we can create a foundation together. So here I am thinking, like, he calls me after 13 years. I thought he's a dick. And he talks to me about going on a mission trip, and there's no foundation. He wants me to create a foundation with him. Nothing made sense. But you know what happened within a split second? From the time I was in college, deciding that I want to get into facial plastic surgery and maxillofacial surgery, which I got inspired watching a cleft lip and palate lecture. My first clinical lecture, I'm sitting in the lecture hall, it's about cleft lip and palate. So I was so intrigued. I'm like, I thought I saw Jesus. Like when I saw the professor showing a before and after of a little infant with a huge cleft lip, I thought it's horrendous. I'm like, how could God be so cruel and, bring a child like this to the world? I mean, this child is innocent. Like all these emotions went through me, and then I showed the after that he can fix it. I'm like, that's what I want to do. This is what, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it.
Yeah.
This was 25 years ago since that phone call. So all of a sudden, everything made sense. The circle closed.
Yep.
I'm like, this is not a random call. This is what got me into this. And I found my why. And that call was in April. In June, we were in Colombia on our first mission.
That's awesome.
And since then, we've gone every year except pandemic years, and we're going back in May. On May 8th to 12th, we're going back. And every year we go, we do about 120, 130 surgeries on about over 80 children in only 4 days, like nonstop. And so to me, that puts so much perspective in my entire life and why I'm doing what I'm doing. It brought so much more joy in everything. And you said it yourself. You said, what we do is not easy. There's days you're just exhausted. You're tired. You don't want to be there. You just want to sleep. But when you have a why, and when you enjoy the process, that's what keeps you, gets you keep going, and where you can't stop, and you actually get even more energized, because those tough days, they make you appreciate things much more. So when you have good days, you don't get like too ahead of yourself, and you can even, I feel like in bad days, I use some of the memories of my good days as energy to get me out of the bad days, and in good days, I don't get too carried away. I'm like, okay, it's not always going to be rosy, so kind of tame yourself. So you end up finding the balance, because people ask me, how do you do all of this stuff? It's about balance. So where do you find your work-life balance and get the energy and motivation to get up on Monday morning and to do all these 100 things that you're doing?
Yeah, to hit the first one about Tony is, my journey with Tony was, I was grateful to hear him at 17, but then I'd never gone to an event, right? I bought all the audios, all the books, everything to begin that journey. I just became in self-development. I began working on myself. Some people think it's about a book or about going to an event, but it's once you read that book or once you go to that event. It's what you do after you leave, right? Because I was speaking to a group of about 250 people in Wisconsin to a chamber event of there's like 250 and 50 stayed after and asking questions and answering questions and taking some pictures. And they go, have you ever heard of Tony Robbins? And I'm like, of course I've heard of Tony Robbins. Like, I've been listening to him since I was 17 years old. They go, you sound a little bit like Tony. You look a little bit like Tony.
You actually
do. And I'm like, well, it's my voice. Like, I can't change your voice. And I'm just a big guy. Like, and so what happened is I at that point, when you put things out there, there's coincidences in your life that happen that you just go, this is not by chance. This is the universe conspiring in your favor. And the next day after, I said, and here's what I actually said. I said, what kind of idiot would spend thousands of dollars to go to the event? Not because I disrespected Tony's work or anybody's work. I just go read the book, do the work, and repeat.
Yeah.
Read the book again and do the work again and repeat.
Yeah, rinse, repeat.
Listen to the audio. Do something new. Do something. And then do it again. Yeah. It's not about, I want everybody to hear this, please. I think this is so important because you're nodding and you and I both know what this is. It's so easy to listen to a podcast like this. It's so easy to read a book and do nothing. In order for things to change, Jim Rohn always says, Tony's mentor, in order for things to change, you must change. Like if we want something different, we got to do something different. So read the book, but if you're going to take time to read a book, do something and then read another book and then do something. Go to the event and then do something. And that's what helped me be successful from 17 to in my early 30s. And then all of a sudden in my late 20s, I come home from that event after saying, what kind of idiot would spend thousands of dollars to go to the event? I have all his audios. I have all his books. I had everything. And not just him, but everybody in self-development or anything I wanted to learn. I had hundreds and hundreds of books, and I still have them, crates and crates of audios. And now you can all have them on your phone. And Rebecca goes, well, why do we keep these? And I'm like, well, they're sentimental value at this point, right? Like I got the original cassettes. Yeah. And so the thing is they said, well, I said that the very next day after I said, what kind of idiot spends thousands of dollars to go to the event? I get a postcard this big, right? I mean, this thing's like, 9 inches wide and 4 inches high, and it has this gigantic head on it with these huge teeth. And of course, everybody out there that's seen Tony Robbins knows it's Tony Robbins. And it says UPW Chicago. And I'm out playing in the front yard with my daughter Faith at the time. And I'm like, sweetheart, Dad will be right back. I said, we got to go in the house for a minute. And we went in the house because I was never getting the mail. I'd just come home. We were playing in the front yard. I grabbed the mail from the mailman and had that postcard. So I go inside, I call them up and I say, sign me up. And they're like, well, who is this and what for? And I thought that they just heard I said, what kind of idiot spends thousands of dollars? They send it directly to me. I go, I'm so sorry. This is Luke Wren. Sign me up. It was like 2 weeks away. And then I had heard for a year that you need to meet this Travis. He's like you. He's into that self-help shit. He had done really good at US Bank. And I kept hearing I needed to meet this guy. The very next week, like 3 or 4 days later, I'm at this business function and I finally meet this Travis. I'm like, I was told I needed to meet you for like a year now. And we got along really good. And I said, well, great, because I'm going to Tony Robbins next week. Would you like to come? And he said, oh, I'd love to, but I can't. I said, oh, okay. And I just turned around and he smacks me on the back and he goes, I know what you're doing. I said, what? He goes, I said I can't. I'm like, yeah, you're right. He's like, all right, I'll go. And that was the start of a great relationship. Still great friends to this day. We went to the first Unleash the Power Within in Chicago. It was back when his events were only like 2,000 people. Now they're 20,000 or, and then he was doing 250,000 a year. But now since the pandemic, he's reaching over 2 to 3 million people a year because of technology. But the thing was, I had this judging factor that said, why would I need to go to the live event? And when I showed up there, the event hadn't even started yet. The energy, I always say energy is everything. I heard that from Tony over and over. But with energy, all things are possible. With it, nothing is. When we're in that place of self-doubt, it's our energy's low. Our energy's high and on fire. You think when you feel great, you're not self-doubting yourself. It's when your energy drops. So I walk in the building, you can feel the vibration. And I remember I literally hurtled chairs, people, everything. And I sat 7th row, right off the center aisle on the left side. And I was like, what are these platinum partners? They're the only people in front of me. I'm like, I thought I was VIP. What are these? And I remember I sat on the aisle and, I'll never forget it because Tony, 26 minutes in, said, write 3 people you want to meet. And proximity is power. And that's where I was like, I declared myself the decade dumbass, because who would listen to somebody for over a decade and not go to their event? But it was a learning, right? Yeah. Now you just do different. And then since that point, I've gone over to 200 live events all over the world, right? And I've spoke at many events now and things like that. But I'm always the student, right? I still listen to Tony and Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar and Joe Osteen and all these people every single day. The new ones that are coming up. Ed Milet, my friend Coach Dar, Candy Valentino, all these people. I listen to your podcast because there's so much good knowledge out there for somebody that's hungry and wants to learn and then go do something. And so when I went to that event, he said, write 3 people you want to meet. And I remember my friend Travis wrote down 3 people he thought he'd meet. I wrote down Tony Robbins, Oprah Winfrey, and Steve Wynn. And I remember Travis looking over at my paper and saying, shoot for the moon, Alice. I said, he said to think big. Well, at that event, the guy that didn't want to spend $1,000 to go to the event, I remember I spent $15,000, signed up for his whole Date with Destiny, Life and Wealth Mastery, and Business Mastery. And he goes, oh, you didn't want to spend $1,000. Now you're going to spend $15,000. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, then one of the people on my list is off because they said you get a picture with him. So, and it wasn't like a big thing. It was like a group picture, right? Mm-hmm. So I go, well, one of my 3 is going to be done this week. And within the next 11 months, I met Oprah Winfrey and Steve Wynn. Because after that event was done, he said, hey, it takes 400 volunteers to put on this event. If you'd like to be one of our volunteers, at that time, we actually had to write a letter. You didn't do it online. Mm. And I wrote a 5-6 letter of how Tony had changed my life and how the audios has served me for the last decade and all these different things. And I got approved to do crew. When I did crew, I paid attention. He was eating chopped up bars. I was eating chopped up bars. I figured out what his fluids were. I was drinking the fluids. He didn't eat. I didn't eat. He didn't pee. I didn't pee. Right? I just success leaves clues. We were taught in school, don't copy somebody else. But in life, if you want to shorten the gap of where you are to where you want to be, find somebody that's wildly successful, 10 times better than you in a category, and follow them and copy what they're doing. If you do what they do, you'll have what they have. Like, I remember there's a mentor that was one of Rebecca's mentors, and he told her early on, and he said, you can do what you're doing and have what you have, or you can do what I'm doing and have what I have. And she said, I looked out there and they had a peninsula into the ocean. They had a $26 million home. She's like, I'm struggling to pay my bills. I'm going to do what you do. Yeah. And it made so much sense, right? But we're taught never to copy. Yeah. But the shortest path to mastery is find somebody successful at doing it and start doing it and following their lead. And so then I got accepted onto crew. I played full out. I got nominated for crew member of the event. Met one of my dear friends, Lauren, to this day. And then she goes, oh my gosh, you need to do security. I'm like, me? People listening, can you imagine me being quiet, right? Just because I'm a big guy doesn't mean I want to be that guy with security on my back and act all tough. And she goes, no, your energy's like, they need people in security. And I said, okay, great. And I did a few calls with Jay, the chief of staff, and his friend Mike Melio. And they said, okay, come do a couple events. Will you try it? We'll try it. And if it's a good fit, great. And I said, no problem. So I show up. I have it even more dialed in what Tony does. And I'm eating what he's eating, drinking what he's drinking. I'm like, I'm not going to eat. And, I'm going to just keep putting nutrition in my body all day. And I show up and play full out for security. And that's where I got asked, would you do EPU, executive protection? I'm like, what's that? I go to crew. They didn't want me in crew. They sent me to security. Now I'm in security. Now you said I'd do a couple events. It's the first one. And they go, no, we've decided you're crazy. And it's a good thing. We're asking, would you want to do executive protection, where you be at Tony and Sage sun up, sundown? And I ended up doing that, and it was all volunteer. Some people thought I was getting paid. It was all volunteer. for almost 8 years.
Were you working? How would you feed yourself?
I had businesses myself,
Okay.
and my health clubs and weight loss centers, and I was being effective in what I did, and it was important enough to me that I started to scale out of that, and I'd volunteer about 100 to 120 days a year.
Wow.
And people go, my mom's like, even my mom was telling me you're crazy. So if somebody's out there and you're doing something right now and you're not where you ultimately think you should be, like, don't listen to the people, because the greatest compliment, we look at in society that if people say, oh, they're crazy, that it's a negative. I think it's the greatest compliment. Would you rather have, oh, you're average? Yeah. Oh, you're mediocre? Oh, you're right at the 50th percentile? Or would you'll be crazy till you're right. And everybody in my life, even my mom, you're crazy. Like, he's making millions and you're volunteering. And it just felt good, because the good book said, give and you shall receive.
Yeah.
It didn't say whine, beg, bitch, complain, expect. It said, give and you shall receive. And I'm sure you see it in young doctors that you mentor. And I think we all have this natural need of our ego that thinks we should get there quicker. But I got over that decade, and people go, oh, you're so lucky you got to speak for Tony Robbins. Don't get me wrong. I'm grateful for that. I'm blessed that I got to speak for him. But when I spoke, that means Tony wasn't speaking, right? That means he wasn't at the event or on the stage. I was speaking because he wasn't on stage. And what was more valuable than anything is the 8 years to sit silently, taking little notes. I'd fold 4 sheets of paper up in my pocket. It would make 32 pages in my pocket. And every time I had a chance, I was taking notes. I would debrief every night what I learned, how he met with people, how he talked to people, how he made people feel, what he did, his mannerisms, how present he was with people. I got $1 billion education in the 8 years that I served. And I say serve because if we say the word give, it's give to get. Service means you're giving, expecting nothing in return. I didn't know what would come out of it. But then one day Sage called up and said, hey, Luke, do you speak? And I said, yeah. She goes, how come you didn't tell us? We've been looking for somebody. And your name was brought up. Could you send me a video? I said, sure, no problem. I just spoke to 1,500 people in Australia. I said, I'll send you that. And she goes, Luke, she calls back a couple days later. We had no idea. We sat there, and Tone looked at me and said, hey, we've been looking for somebody, and the guy's been sat right beside me. Would you mind trying out and doing an event? And if it doesn't work, I said, no worries. If it doesn't work out, I'll just keep volunteering security. No problem. And it worked out well. And, I spoke for him for about 5 or 6 years. If they'd still call this day, I'd do something. But I'm busy in my own companies applying what I learned from Tony and Sage Robbins in that environment. I'm so grateful for those two incredible humans. They, here I was there serving, and I received so much. I wasn't there to get. I never asked questions. I spoke when spoken to. I watched everybody else vie for their time. So if they asked me a question or spoke to me when I was there, great. I spoke to them, and I've been very blessed to do that. But I want everybody to hear that. It'd be easy for my ego to sit in that environment and just feed off the ego of that. But what I'm more proud of, I've been taking what I learned over that decade plus in that environment of volunteering and speaking and applying it now. And now I'm partnered in 4 major companies. I have 3 companies that I spend about a half a day to a day on a week. And then the other 5 days a week I spend on Build Senior Living. And then I spend, at least 1 day a week shut off. But then you can find a rhythm. Balance is always kind of this iffy thing, right? If you're on a teeter-totter, balance is really boring. But we got to find a rhythm that you're hitting all aspects of life. And that's what I want everybody to hear is sometimes you're going to be giving more than you're receiving. It doesn't mean if you give, you'll receive right away. Give and you shall receive. And what I mean by that is I just challenge anybody that hears this. I just challenge anybody that's hearing this message right now to show up unapologetically and authentically as yourself tomorrow and every day forward and just see what happens. Because don't worry about other people are going to, oh, you're going to, you know what it's like. You come back from the event or the book and people go, oh, now you're all this energetic, happy, excited person. You're going to be yourself. Oh, no, let me come back to your level and feel like shit and see if my dreams come to me. Like, you know, but we let other people influence us so much. So I know that's a bit of a long story, but that's how it all came to. But it gets back to everybody, as you're hearing this, go do something because of what you're hearing. Pick one thing that stuck out that Daria said today or I said today and do something different.
So I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, as far as mentorship, I think the people spend thousands of dollars in education. What I tell people,
hundreds of thousands.
Hundreds of thousands. It's now millions.
Yeah.
If people just, I keep talking to these young people. I say, look, if I had the knowledge I have today, I wouldn't hesitate to work for free, because it's really not for free. If you work for someone or in some business or some organization that you love, that you're passionate about, whatever is that you believe in, it aligns with what you believe in and where you see yourself. There is no greater value than offering to work for free, because if you wanted to learn, like everything you learned by working with Tony for free for how many years?
8 years.
8 years. You know how much money you would have spent, and you wouldn't even have learned a fraction of that.
Where else can you get that education? And here's the funny part, right? Even Mom was telling me that I was crazy, right?
They don't teach
Everybody
that
said I was crazy. But guess what they said when I started speaking for them? You're so lucky. Yeah. You went from crazy for 8 years to lucky, and even now, right? But you know you're crazy until you're lucky, and there's a message in there that you just gotta you gotta be on your journey. That was part of my journey.
Because people always see the final result. They don't see how people get to there, and it's a very common thing. And you know, for those of you who are listening and thinking like, you know, all these successful people, everything fell into their laps, you know, you better talk to them. And if you're really curious, if you really want to know, you know, just ask them what they had to sacrifice, and what compromises they had to endure to get to that point and even have the chance, because you have to give yourself at least the chance. And if you don't start, like you said, do something and get started, you don't even give yourself the chance. And chance is like how everything starts. You know, for example, that phone call, if I hadn't picked it up, you know, one of the quotes I like is the definition of luck, you know, and remind me who that was. He said, luck is when opportunity meets
preparation
meets opportunity. You know, opportunities are all around us, and if we're not prepared, it's like, you know, Shakespeare says, luck when luck knocks at the door, you better open it. You know, if you don't open it, shame on you. And so many people, they look at successful people like you or anyone, they think they're lucky. They don't realize how much hard work they put into it. And that's when then the cynicism starts. You know, they get cynic and they stop believing, and they're like, well, you know, it's not for me. It's easy for them. It's not so easy for us, and it becomes them against us and me against him or her. And it's almost like they fall down that spiral, and it's very hard to get those people. I've conversed with those people. I tried to motivate them. And it's so hard to get them out of that, you know, it's almost like drift, where they get so far away from themselves that, you know, they don't even self-reflect. And when you tell them to take time, it's almost like they're like, look, I'm struggling to make, a living, and you're talking to me about self-reflection, you're talking to me about yoga, healthy eating, or living. It's so difficult. And I think the only way to get those people, in my opinion, out of that is just to share stories, and people can always relate to stories, and that's what we're doing right now. And your example is the best example. At least, guys, I'm not just talking about it. Here's the guy sitting in front of me. He worked for free for 8 years, and I don't know.
And most people won't work for somebody free for a week.
Yeah. Did you know what you were doing though? Or was it just because you were...
I would still, if they called me up and said, hey, we need you to help at this event.
I know, but
and do security, I'd do it today.
Was it a means to an end? Like
So I never had the goal to speak for Tony Robbins.
What drove you to work for free?
I went, it was what it did for me. When I came across those audios at 17, it changed my life to get exposed to self-development and growth at that area, to get a new way of thinking. And when I went to the live event, I didn't want anybody else to wait a decade to do it. I'm like, if I could volunteer and help other people experience this, that'd be the greatest gift. Yeah. And then when I did that, then they asked me to do security. It just continued to evolve and unfold. I didn't know that it'd serve me and I'd be, where I am today, doing what I am today. I always knew I'd be doing something that'd be changing lives, about making people's lives better, and doing something that had meaning to me. But no, you're doing it for the wrong reason. If you're doing it as a means to an end, I would say if you're going to go work for somebody for free, you got to pick somebody that you're truly willing to serve, not give to get. There's a difference in feeling of that. And I've got so much fulfillment. There's a paycheck I got from those 8 years in fulfillment that no amount of money can ever pay me. When you truly, like how you lit up when you talked about your foundation and going down and fixing 80 children's cleft lip, and the difference that makes in their life. Tony talks about that. There's a science of achievement in their life and yours.
In my life.
Because there's a science of achievement. We can go get, but truly where happiness comes in is what fulfills you. As you talked about, we've all hit struggles. I was much of the same way like you, is when, you talk about, man, I'm doing good and I've got all this, and everybody looks at you and goes, you got it all together, but it's empty inside. If you didn't figure out, I got to fill up my cup first. My cup's got to be overflowing, and then I have more to give to the world. And it's easy to just be the energy and show up for everybody else. But if you're not showing up for yourself, eventually it backfires. People go, oh no, self-care is selfish. And I love the way that Pitbull says it. He's like, self first, right? You need to be self first. It's not selfish. That if you become more because you're taking care of you, you can serve yourself, those 100%. Around you, your family, and the world so much greater.
Yeah, I mean, that's how the world goes around,
Yep.
And people call it selfishness, but it's selfishness in a good way, because only if you, like you said, you take care of yourself, you can take care of others. You can't take care of others if you can't pull your own pants up. So that's the one thing. And when I see these young people, and I was there, they want to change the world and they want to go save wildlife. It's great. It's a great cause, but first you have to take care of yourself. Get yourself to a point where if you do that, it actually makes an impact. So you don't just talk the talk, you're able to walk the walk. And that's sometimes where the confusion lies in younger people. And, I commend their ideas and ideologies and motivation, but first you got to take care of yourself.
100%.
And then you can take care of thousands and millions of people at scale. And that's the one thing that I think it requires some perspective. And you just have to go through it. You have to fall on your face. You have to fail until you realize. So, talking about failures, people listen to us. They're like, man, these guys got it figured out. They're like all like energetic and all pumped up. I can speak for myself. I have days that I'm really down, but I have certain anchors where I can get myself back up. And it's almost like at an instant, I can do that. Takes a lot of effort, energy, but I know how to do it. What is your, talk to me about the days that you don't feel like Luke Wren. You feel like, man, this sucks. I'm exhausted. I can't do this. What do you do? How do you get yourself out of those moments in which we have weekly, daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like an emotional muscle. Number one, there used to be times where something would bother me for a week, and then it'd bother you for a day, and then it'd bother you for a half day, and then it'd bother you for an hour, and now it takes a few minutes. Like if I wake up and I don't feel like it, I believe we build our routines, and then our routines build us. And one of the biggest things that I've heard multiple mentors of mine over time say is, get grateful. When I wake up first thing in the morning, I wake up, my eyes open, and I just close my eyes and I just thank God for another day. And I just breathe and I just flood my mind with all the things I'm grateful for simple things. I don't judge them. I used to think they had to be big things. And I think sometimes we just overthink it. And I think the older and wiser I get is that the more experience I get, I think that it's really not judging our thoughts, just let them be. And I just say, what am I grateful for? And I'm breathing deep and taking in air and just thanking God for another day and being grateful for the smallest, the largest, the medium things, everything in between. There's no wrong answer. And then I get up and I move my body, right? Because I think so many people, being in the health field and the health background, so many people think, oh, how do you stay fit? I get that question because I'm a big guy. Oh, you must work out. And I work out for my mental sanity. Yep. And there was a great movie that just came out by Jonah Hill, Stutz. And in there, they cover as well that, exercise is 85% for mental health. Like when you're moving your body, you feel better. I mean, I don't know if anybody out there can tell me, hey, I went for a walk and I felt like crap, right?
Yeah.
And so
that's actually scientifically proven. It increases blood flow to your brain.
You can't do it. It's challenging, right? Yeah. That's why Tony says he calls it his triad, right? Physiology, focus, language, and meaning. And what I focus on is when I get up, great. I control my mind. I get grateful. I thank it. I snuggle Rebecca. I get up and I get on the treadmill and I get a workout in right away, or I go to the gym right away and I move my body because, and if I don't feel like it, I won't make the decision from my pillow because I know my routines are going to put my body in state. I know my routines are going to tell me what the truth is. And I might get to the gym and go, hey, I'm going to do a lighter workout today. I might get on the treadmill and walk and do some postural exercises and breathing, but I'm not going to lay in bed in my comfort. I'm going to go, hey, the mind's in charge. The mind knows what makes you feel better. We're going to go move. After we move, we'll decide how we're feeling. And so I think you create routines that don't allow yourself to be down as much. And then there's the answer to this question. If somebody's you feel like your batteries are drained because you maybe been going so hard, life comes in seasons, just like the weather, unless you're in Florida, then it's sunny and warm all the time. But I grew up in Minnesota where we had spring, summer,
you paid
fall,
your dues,
and winter. You paid your dues in the winter. It'd be negative 50. Now I come to DC, I go, oh, it's 50. I got to put on a sport coat. I normally just wear a t-shirt every day. Yeah. And
it's the first time I saw you in the coat.
Right? Because I wear a Lululemon t-shirt and a pair of jeans or a pair of shorts every day. I'm a pretty simple guy. It was like a little chilly up here. I put on a sport coat, look all sharp for Daria.
I thought you dressed up for me. I didn't know you were cold.
No, I just looked at the weather. I go, I'm going to need some overcoat.
Wow, you dressed up for
me. I'm be shivering.
I didn't
know
it was
just look sharp. I wanted to look sharp for you.
You shouldn't have told me.
And there's 4 R's that I say, and I would encourage everybody to build a menu of your 4 R's. And I'll give you the words and then I'll give you an example of each. Number 1, your first menu is a menu of resets. What resets you? And I mean, so if you're going, most people wake up and they build a routine, get them feeling good in the morning. And I call it a 1, 2, 3. Don't come up with a complex routine. The most common thing in the world right now is everybody goes, oh, this is my 4.5 hour routine. Here's the 56 things I do before 10 a.m. No, pick 3. 1, 2, 3, many. Yeah. Tony taught me that. And it confused mind does nothing. But if I just got to wake up, breathe, get grateful, snuggle and say good morning to Rebecca, and get on a treadmill and sweat, I can't mess that up. Then I get done with that. I drink my shake. I take a shower. I review my schedule and set my intention for the day. That's 1, 2, 3. Great. Then I do the first 3 things on my schedule. What's the most important one? I do that before I even worry about 2. So I go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I just go 1 because 2 doesn't matter till I get done with 1, right? And those simple routines, keep it simple. But what are some resets you can do throughout the day, right? If you're in your chair after a call, could you just shake your arms out real quick and it'd be a reset? Could you close your eyes and take 4 or 5 deep breaths to your belly and think of something you're massively grateful for? You know, could you get up and walk around the office, sit back down? Anything to hit the reset button of your brain so that you're not stagnant in what you're doing. And it usually involves physiology, focus, and your language and meaning. But if you just get up and reset somehow, your focus will get distracted and change. You'll have to refocus, so to force it. So build a menu of resets. Then build a menu of recharges. What is it that fills up your spirit, right? Like you and I are charged. We're going to have a hard time sleeping tonight because we talked 90 minutes before we got going to the podcast. We're still going to dinner. We're going to go, is somebody still serving food tonight? And we're going to be charged. So is that charge, you know, like I loved the other day, I had 14 minutes before I was arriving at my destination, called up my mom. Mom, how are you doing? Because, you know, calling my mom and asking her how she is, she asks how me, that charges me. Love that. Right? You know, sending your loved one a text. Yeah. You know, send your child a text, shoot them a message, send a voice note, reach out to somebody. Another way of recharging, you could do breathing. There's no wrong ways. And here's how you build a menu of resets. Just make a list of what resets you. There's no wrong answer. How do you do? Well, Luke, what are the recharges? It's not as important as what my recharges me. What recharges you? And think of simple, short things that recharge you. Hey, it could be a simple saying. Hey, life is happening for us, not to us. Things are falling together, not apart. It might be a quick little recharge like that. Like if you had a bad moment or something didn't go your way, you just need to remind yourself a simple reminder. It could be small or big things like you just got back from skiing in Park City. I love the Park City, Salt Lake. I have many friends out that way. And I love the mountains. It's a recharge. I love the ocean. It's a recharge. Like what is it that recharges you? And build a menu of things that are quick and then take a little bit longer. Or if you need a harder recharge, like a massage or you're going to go, maybe a woman's getting or men, I like manicures and pedicures and facials and maybe they're using your skin products and feeling younger and looking younger. And so, you know, what is recharges you? And then the third one is, you know, what is it that you're refueling with? Like you knew before we started, you know, I've got my packets and my shakers and I bring my nutrition with me everywhere. I don't gamble on when I'm traveling, what I'm going to put in my body. If I want to operate on a high capacity, I need to have high octane fuel. Yeah. People go, Luke, how do you keep go? Well, you know what? A Buick takes different fuel than a Ferrari, and a jet takes different fuel than a Ferrari as well. I want to be the jet. Yeah. I want to fly in life, not drive.
I'm pretty sure you had jet fuel.
So I put jet fuel in my body, and I'm conscious of that every day because your body only has to operate on what you give it. So what are you refueling yourself with? Build a menu of what you need to be putting in your body. And that's where so many people struggle because they're putting in the food in anywhere in the world right now really isn't nutrition. So are you getting the nutrition that your body is proven to heal on, right? So refuel menu. And then most importantly, what's your menu for rest? Because here's what I'd say if people want to write this little one down is reset, recharge, refuel, and rest so you can keep bringing your best. Because that's all you got to do in life. That's all you got to do. It's not any tougher than reset, recharge, refuel, and rest. And if you just bring your best every day, you will surprise the hell out of yourself. What you can do, what you can accomplish, and your energy will be high. And with high energy, you have less self-doubt. Energy is everything. And those 4 R's, I can't emphasize that enough. I'm so glad you asked that question because we're all going to have moments of self-doubt. That's the human psychology. Oh, am I enough? If I'm not enough, I won't be loved. I have those thoughts every day, but I know I have them more when my energy drops. Yeah. And I use a simple self-coaching method, and I call it a simple 5-minute meeting in the business. I use the same system in everything I do, so I snap myself out of it. Because most people overcomplicate it. Simple gets done, complicated doesn't. A confused mind does nothing. So make your 4 menus of ours so that you can decide, I'm going to show up fully as me. I'm going to show up as my best. You don't have to worry. Great, you failed, no big deal. Get back up, go again. You fell a lot of times before you started walking. Most things in life as adults, if it doesn't work out the first time, we quit, let alone try it 3 or 4 more times.
What's the biggest lesson you learned from your biggest failure?
Oh gosh, I mean, what failure do I choose? I mean, I always say...
The biggest one. Choose the biggest one where you sat and said, wow, I don't think I can recover from this. Or at least at that point.
Yeah.
And then how do you carry that lesson with you? And
there was a point that, I went through a divorce, and, I was struggling after it. I gave the person the business I had created in the divorce. I walked away with some money, and that's where I realized money doesn't make you happy. And I got less time with my child than what I thought I was going to get. And that was tough. But I didn't realize that when I decided to give the business instead of fight for another 12 or 18 months, that my life was too valuable, time's too short, that it was so much my identity. Mm-hmm. And so here I'm divorced. I got some cash. I don't have as much time with my daughter as I want. I moved to another area because I can't stomach watching somebody else create a business that I built from the ground up. That was, my heart, my soul, my passion. And, I'm the person that put myself there. I'm not blaming. I'm not, I'm just saying you're sitting there. And then on top of that, if anybody out there has made a bad investment before, I invested into this investment on a high level. And that went away. And I can tell you what not to invest in. That's another story. But I found myself, $250,000 upside down, divorced. Somebody else is running the business that I created and loved and was my dream for life. And I remember sitting in my boxer shorts in a little outside a beautiful condo in uptown Minneapolis, overlooking Lake Calhoun, and sitting outside with tears in my eyes on my birthday. And just thinking, what's the point to life? Like, my life's been about lighting people up. My life's been about, I wanted to change lives and help everybody understand that if they just have the energy, they can go after whatever they want. How am I living the proof of that right now? And I remembered my buddy Jeff, still a great friend to this day. I played pickleball with him last week. He called me up, and thank God he did. I was out there in tears and boxers, and I'd slept in till 11 a.m. So if somebody out there thinks, well, gosh, Luke, you don't understand. You don't understand what I'm going through right now. I promise you, I've been to the highest highs, but we all have failures. We all have setbacks. And when you stack a few in a row, a downward spiral, it's not fun. And struggling for purpose, struggling for what's next. Felt like I lost my identity. I don't have my daughter. I'm not married. I don't even have my business I created. And I've got money. Well, big deal. The money was worthless to me. But then I made, quick decisions and didn't follow my own rules and lost the money. And you know what? It taught me that money isn't everything, though. It taught me what made me happy was growth and the journey, and that, it made me rebuild the foundation. My friend Jeff said, Luke, you just got to remember who you are and what you're about. A little bit of like what we talked about in the beginning. And I sat down with the fundamentals that I did when I first started self-development, self-growth, is I am. Who am I? And I made sure the priorities are right because the order matters. And I said, I am love. I am blessed. I am energy. And I used to have, those were the first 3 that came out. And I used to have in there that I am a gladiator. But at this point, it was a gladiator. Now it's updated to, I am a magician, because I lost my playful side. I was grinding and working so hard, but so important I had to rebuild. Who am I? And we all get that choice every single day. And I think, since it had that not happened, had I not hit a lowest low, wondering why am I even still on earth? Why was I worthy? Why am I enough? And literally, I don't know if it gets much worse than crying on your birthday when you're waking up by yourself at 11 a.m. in your boxer shorts.
I've done that.
And by the grace of God, a good friend calls you. And from that day, I wouldn't be who I am today without that day. I think, it's so cliche. There's so many ways people say it. But what shows you what you're made of is your failures, not your successes. I've gotten to every success and I thought, this is it. But if I look at my failures, if you can't tell from sharing that story, I didn't know I was going to be sharing that one today. I get a little choked up when I talk about it, and just go, every time I share it, I just go, wow, I'm so thankful for that. I'm so truly grateful for everything that was going on at that time, because I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't have what I have today. I wouldn't have the resolve. I wouldn't have strengthened my identity. I wouldn't have renewed the foundation of the fundamentals so strong. And I just remember on that day, I'm going to do this so good. I'm going to never drop the fundamentals again. And now I do it every single day when I get on my rebounder, my IMs, my incantations, my beliefs, and what I'm thinking about, what matters to me, and remind yourself, so that I don't just accidentally set them down like I did then, because I'd set down the fundamentals because everything was going so good. Mm-hmm. And then you take a curveball. So but not just that one. That was a big one.
Yeah,
but there were many failures. And I always say, if you're looking up to somebody, they're standing on a mountain of failures. That, there's nobody that has what they want in this life without going through many failures that you haven't heard about to get there. And we don't know what we find out until we're faced with the adversity or the failures. And then 100%. That's what truly builds us.
100%. No, thank you for being so generous to share that story. I know it's very personal. And I was going to ask you, what's your definition of happiness? But I think you just answered it within talking about your failures. You know, that happiness is not about money. It's, how would you say it?
When I was asked that on a podcast, from somebody over in Europe. They said, what is happiness? Mm-hmm. And I never thought of it this way before. I'd never said it. I don't know where it came. God just kind of flew through me, and I was like, wow, that stuck. And I was like, presence is, I look at the times that I was happiest in life, and why I'm so happy now. I've gotten better at living in the present, not beating myself up for the past, not letting the ego live on the past, not getting too far into the future, excited about what's going to happen or fearful of what's going to happen, but truly being in the moment with people. It's one of the things that I respect most when I volunteered in the Tony Robbins world, is to watch how immediately with somebody he could just become present. And it's not like you want to train it, but if in what we're doing, if you're in it, a friend of mine, Jesse Itzler, he has some incredible stuff out there too, and is doing more and more in sharing his knowledge. But he always says, be where your feet are. And I love the way that is, right? It's so easy in today's distracted world, something binging, bopping, booping, vibrating to get our attention, that people are always looking at their devices or thinking about what's coming up or beating themselves up for what happened in the past or blaming what's in the past, instead of just be where your feet are, be present. Because if you're present, you'll find yourself happy. It's not something you achieve. It's not being successful. It's, the goal is happiness, not success. I chase success. That's a lonely, lonely place.
I love that. I think one of the things that taught me to just be happy is understanding what it means living in the presence. Because when I first heard it, I didn't know what it means. Mm-hmm. And I remember a friend of mine told me that. And I asked him, he says, and his response was like, you might not understand it now, but give it a couple of years, you will understand it. Mm-hmm. So it basically told me to be patient, but not to disbelieve it, not to think it's some BS. And it literally, a couple of years later, that's when I understood it. But what if someone says, well, how can I plan for my future if I live in the present? So you talked a little bit about the balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how can you kind of dig a little into it to unwrap it a little bit so that people that don't understand how you can live in the moment, but also plan for the future by living in the moment, how that goes hand in hand, actually. It's pretty much the same thing.
Absolutely. I equate it to if we're driving a car, right? I think the best metaphor or example is when you're driving a car. Our past is an incredible thing to learn from. What worked, what didn't work, what do we need to remember? You glance at the rearview mirror. But if you stare at that rearview mirror more than a couple seconds, you're going to crash. Mm-hmm. You can look upon the horizon or have your peripheral that you can see the future that's coming towards you when you're driving down the road. Mm-hmm. But if you stare out there, you're probably going to crash.
True.
You need to be present into what's going on here, what's going on right in front of the car or just in front of the car the majority of the time or you're going to crash. But it's healthy to look up at the horizon, especially what if a beautiful sunset's something, or what if there's an accident going on up there, you start seeing brake lights. What if in your rearview mirror something's going on? There might be a cop chasing you because you drive fast like me or something. But we need to, it doesn't mean don't get excited and set goals for the future. Mm-hmm. Set aside time to dream. Most people forget to dream. I used to run this exercise at Life Mastery, and I do it with all my clients. I go, if you could have your cake and eat it too, what do you want in 10 years? What does your day look like? What's your home? What's your car? Maybe you have planes, boats, yachts, whatever. But most people forget to dream because we overestimate, because people get down on themselves because they overestimate what they can do in a year, but then underestimate what they can do in a decade. Yeah. I think one of the most healthy exercises I'd challenge anybody that hears this to do is dream about, without limitation, what you want 10 years from now. Yeah. And then go, well, if that were possible in 10 years, okay, what do I want 12 months from now? What do I want my day to look like? What do I want my routines to look like? What do I want my body to look like? What do I want my family to look like? What do I want? Every little detail you can think of, and then go, okay, well, great. Write all those ideas down and circle the top 3 or rank them and put them in order and focus on the top 3 until the top 3 are gone. Don't adjust it, but every month, maybe take a look at it. That's what goals are for, is the future. But then be present. You and I have been together. We don't even know what time it is. I mean, we got lights going out. We've been going so long, but we're both engaged and fully present, right? And that's so rare in today's world. And I think why it's even harder for people now, and it was a challenge for me. That's why I shouldn't assume what other people are going through, but what it is for me is if I'm not doing my routines and my exercise and I'm not doing my 4 hours, reset and recharge and refueling and resting, my mind's too busy or too tired to actually absorb and be present. Because there's something running up here. It's like that circle on, if somebody doesn't have a MacBook, remember the old IBM?
Yeah,
sorry,
the
PC people out there. Remember the wheel? And you're slamming on the keyboard every day and you're like, the wheel's not going. Now, thank goodness, Steve Jobs, because we got rid of that wheel and computers work without problems now and everything. But it's one of the metaphors and examples I use because I think it's really hard to be present if you're distracted, overworked, over busy, over scheduled, or for me, what it was, why, even though I loved and I cared about people, sometimes it'd come across I wasn't present because I said for, 2 decades of my life, I'll sleep when I'm dead. And research is heavily out now. The only thing it proves is if you don't sleep, you will die sooner and forget a lot of shit between now and then if you don't. Like your body repairs itself and does its processes and takes care of itself at rest. Yeah. And so I think it's, making sure to have a check-in. And if you're doing too much, lighten it up. Mm-hmm. Find a way to shut off. And I think it's the 4 hours that you'll find your own rhythm. My rhythm doesn't matter as much to others as it does to me. Sure. And mine's evolved and developed over years. That's why, number one, I would say, be easier on yourself. come up with
Great
your
advice.
menu and realize it's going to be a journey to finding a rhythm that works for you. It's not because balance, right? Flat line means we're dead. It's the ups and downs that give us a vital sign to let us know we're alive. And so if you figure out what it is, all areas of your life aren't going to be equal. But if you go, oh, this one's dropping, I should focus on that a little bit more. Oh, that got better, but this dropped a little bit. And we kind of move around and go, what rhythm works? And at different seasons, it might look different too. Yeah. And so I think if people are easy on themselves, they focus on the 4 R's and celebrate your own journey and find your own rhythm. Don't let somebody impose theirs on you.
I think I love that, what you just said, because I think people are way too hard on themselves. They
Absolutely.
judge themselves to the point that it's almost so self-destructive. And I think the people that judge themselves tend to judge others. And it's kind of like this vicious cycle. It becomes a habit. So the one way to break that habit, I tell people, just stop judging yourself. There is no right or wrong, There is no right or wrong in this world. It just depends on how you look at things. You can look at one thing from one perspective, it has certain meaning, and look at it from the other perspective, it gives a total different meaning. So choose the meaning you want that makes you happy, and that's the meaning you give it. And don't 100%. Let anybody change that for you. And it's so easy, and it just amazes me. And sometimes it's the easiest stuff that become unbelievable. People tell me all the time, it's like, well, if it was that easy, everybody would do it. That's the thing. It's almost like people make things so overcomplicated, and you touched on it, is that you make it so overcomplicated, from doing just physical exercise, going to the gym, creating these incredible routines that they're not long-term sustainable. And that's why, New Year's resolutions last 14 days, right?
Yeah.
And so if you keep it simple, which is what you just said too, is you can make things happen so easily that you'll be surprised. So I recommend all of you that are listening to Luke and in the past hour and a half to just keep things simple. Start simplifying things, and then let the chips fall. You will see results much faster. Luke, I could talk, and we will talk for hours, but on this podcast, I could talk to you for days, nonstop, as long as someone brings us water and some calories. And we talked about many things across life, business, spirituality. To me, they all relate to each other. They're one thing. It's called life. A lot of our journeys, life journeys, are very similar, including your biggest failure. But is there one, and I always ask my guests that question at the end, is there one question I should have asked you that I didn't ask?
That's a great question. I think, I don't even think there's a question. I read through those questions. I was like, wow, this is really well thought out. If there's one final thing I would want to say to people, maybe like, what would I say to people right now, right? We're at the end of a 14-year run. Everybody's nervous about the recession. Everybody's nervous because most people don't know what AI is or what AI does. Most people don't understand what the transference of wealth in America is going to do. The change in population and demographics and all those things. So we're in a very uncertain time, right? And Tony always said over and over, the amount of uncertainty you can comfortably live with, is going to be directly proportional to the quality of your life. And what would I say to everybody out there to give them a little more certainty right now is the world is always evolved and changing, and it's speeding up the change, yes, but we've also adapted to this point. As tough as you may think it might get in this recession, and as much as you think things may be falling apart, they're falling together. Things are happening for you, not to you. And the encouragement I'd want to give everybody that heard this message and maybe hung in here, if we break this up into multiple episodes, or if this is the final episode, or we take the high points, is this is a time where you got to bet on you, and you got to take care of you, so you can be flexible, and you can pivot. And I think it's a really big time to do a self-evaluation of, where is my mindset and my habits and my skills? I heard that on a couple other podcasts out there. And I think it's the greatest time ever to investigate, what skills might I need to learn so I don't become obsolete? What habits are going to move me towards where I want to go? And what programming in my mind might I need to update? Because everybody that's listening updates their iPhone. And if they don't update their iPhone, it quits working. It slows down, and then eventually it'll quit working. Yet, how often do we update our mindset and our beliefs?
Good point.
And so I would encourage everybody out there to take some time and go, what are the skills I need to develop over the next 3 to 5 years that would be helpful for me and my family? What are some of the habits that I need to do on a regular basis? Don't beat yourself up. Don't overthink it. And what shifts could I make in my mindset? And then just focus on you. You do your 4 hours, and you know what? You don't have all the answers. You just move, and you just reset, recharge, refuel, and rest. So you can bring your best. Double down on you. Bet on you. Believe in you, because if you don't, nobody else will.
Love it. Beautifully said. Don't be. Another thing I can add to it is don't react. Be proactive. Prepare. And invest in yourself, which is everything that you talked about.
Absolutely.
From your story that started with investing in yourself to now investing in others. And, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your wisdom, your time, your generosity, and your friendship. And I feel like I've known you for many years. And, I'm really grateful, talking about gratefulness. I'm really grateful for these moments. These moments in my life, they mean a lot to me because they build me, they grow me, and they give me the power to share it with others and to make a change in people's lives that I've never met, I might never meet, or even people that I meet on a daily basis that might not know a lot of the stuff that we talked about and might stumble upon this podcast, and it might change their lives. And I've seen many lives change, including myself, with stories like yourself. So I'm very grateful. So thank you, and we shall chat further.
Absolutely.
And if anybody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
On all the social media channels, Luke_Wren. If they got a story of something that hit them, I love getting them personally. Send me an email, luke@lukewren.com. But I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all the channels under LUKEWREN, Luke Wren. And, would love to hear from them. What is it that hit them from this 90 minutes? That's what truly matters to me, is because what we get lasts a while, but what we give lasts forever. And I hope that we gave something today between the two of us and sharing our hearts and souls with you that you take and go do something with and serve yourself, your family, and the world.
Beautiful. Thank you, Luke.
Thank you.
Pleasure. All right, guys, episode's over. Hope you enjoyed our conversation with the one and only Luke Wren. Please don't forget to leave me a review on Apple iTunes or Spotify or any podcast outlet that you're listening to. I'm looking forward to my conversation with my next guest, and I will announce him pretty soon, so stay tuned and follow my Instagram for updates at Dr. Hamra. Until next time, bye-bye.